you're hearing it now. I got to see him play, and he was a first-round draft choice.
It was a foregone conclusion that I was going to Clemson from day one.
So I went to my dad, Coach Kimry, and we had a sit down, right? And I said, Dad, Coach Kimry, I think I want to just go ahead.
But the other team that resonated with me was the 1990 Citadel team. And with that, I've thought about who my guests are going to be.
Oh, yes. Believe me, that was talked about many times. Because a lot of people, just didn't realize how good the guy was. I mean, I'm telling you now, he was the best pitcher I ever saw.
And an entire family. I mean, would you agree with that?
Sorry about that. What's up, Trey?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Oh man, just living the life.
Yes, sir.
Greer Sports Star. Man, this is I've been excited about this one. We have with us the publisher, I think the publisher of the Greer Sports Star, Trey Stewart. What's going on, man?
It's been a crazy couple weeks, man, but it's good to be on here. Good to be talking to you.
Let's talk about that couple of weeks. Let's kind of start there. Well, first of all, before we actually talk about the couple of weeks, where are you originally from? Are you from South Carolina?
I'm from right here in Greenville, in Greer, right on the borderline. It's like right on the edge of Greenville, Taylor's, and Greer. So I'm right in the middle of all. But I've been here my whole life.
So Greenville, obviously, that area, the state means something to you.
Absolutely, whole upstate in general, but this is like the Greer area specifically. It's just I don't know. I just got a heart for it, and the people, the community there. It's so tight knit. It's a special place. It really is.
And what high school did you go to, if I might ask?
Yeah, so I was zoned to go to Eastside High School. Which was very close to where I live, but I ended up going to a little private Christian school instead. It's called Hampton Park. It's right up there near, where Paris Mountain is in Greenville. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very small school. My graduating class was like 25 people, but oh
wow,
yeah, very, very tiny. But it was a good school. I enjoyed it.
And now, and tell me again the name of the newspaper that you were at previously, and how long were you there?
So the newspaper was the Greer Citizen, and I was there for, oh goodness, a little over a year and a half, doing all the sports there, handling all the sports coverage. But the paper itself had been around for, if I'm not mistaken, I think around since 1918 was the first year it began when it was issued. So 106 years in circulation, and then it shut down on July 31st of this year officially. So very, very sad, very, very sad for the community. Just really unexpected because it's got so much history and it's been so important to Greer for such a long time.
And we're going to get to the it shutting down, but man, how you came on our radar, you have done some really good work, especially obviously with all those teams, Burns, Greer. I first saw your work with Greer, obviously, but talk a little bit about some of the coaches and some of the players that you've gotten to cover over the last few years, and some of the more memorable moments for you as a writer and as a journalist.
Yeah, so honestly, a lot of the more memorable moments for me come from basketball season. I know y'all cover basketball really well, but the Greer area, it was just so many good basketball teams this past season. If you remember, Greer and Riverside boys, they both made it to the upper state championship game. Played down in Florence, which is a whole nother conversation for another day. But Burns boys made it to the state championship. Riverside boys made it to the state championship, and the Riverside girls made it to the state championship and won the state championship. So a lot of my favorite memories and favorite stories come from basketball. I've gotten to get to know a kid. He's a senior this year, Amari Anderson. He plays for Greer. He's just a really good dude, great family. Got to tell his story. Will Fowler and his dad, Coach Fowler at Burns, amazing people. Just a lot of really great young athletes, and specifically in the basketball realm from the Greer area that I've enjoyed getting to tell their stories.
Now, the one thing I've liked about, or I've enjoyed about your work from afar is you do long, or at least from what I've seen, you do long form pieces on a lot of these high high school athletes and do long form pieces on the coaches and the schools and things of that nature. Are you intentional about doing kind of those, because so much of the journalism nowadays is kind of short, trying to get that quick attention grab for maybe 4 or 5 seconds, then on to something else. Are you kind of intentional about doing more of the, I'm not going to say it's old school, but more of the traditional long form journalism that many journalists, to be honest with you, at least from my vantage point, don't necessarily focus on as much as they used to?
Yeah, so at the Greer Citizen, it's a family. It was a locally family-owned newspaper, so you kind of have that freedom that a lot of papers these days don't have, to where, or at least I had that freedom to where I could make the sports section every week, pretty much whatever I wanted to make it, however big I wanted to make it. And that was a big blessing, is being able to do that every week, because you could tell those long-form stories and you could write lengthier features instead of just, like you said, the attention-grabbing, quick hitter articles, I guess. But that's another great thing about it, what I've got going on now, is that, it's just me. So I have that creative freedom, to do kind of write however I want, write whatever I want, and hopefully the people appreciate it. But that definitely is something that I've tried to do, is more long form, intentional storytelling. I think that's definitely one of my personal strengths in journalism.
And I really felt like, just in speaking to a lot of people from that area, they appreciated your style of journalism, and they appreciated the way you covered the teams, because you were really ingrained within a lot of those teams. I know you mentioned the basketball games, especially last year, and how going down to Florence after to cover those games. I know a lot of the coaches really appreciated all the time and dedication that you put into your craft. And I know you got a few awards. We can put them there on the screen. I know you're not in it for the awards, but it certainly is appreciated, all the time and effort that you put in.
Absolutely.
Now,
I appreciate them too. They make my job, easy. So they're great.
And honestly, as you said, man, there's a lot of talent. There was a lot of talent up there last year, and there's even just as much talent up there now. I mean, you talked about Will Fowler. I know he's got a little brother I shouldn't say a little brother, a younger brother who's on the team now at Burns. And then obviously you have Coach Flower. You had Kazan McDowell. Was it McDowell? What's his name? McDowell?
Kazan McDowell, yep.
Yeah. And then you had the big kid who actually went to American this past year at Riverside. You had some good guards at Riverside. You got Mikey Williams at Greer, and this is just basketball I'm talking about. So, and also you have Eric Sullivan now coaching up that way as well. So you have a lot of star power with his name, and then you have Justin Ray's. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but younger brother, younger brother.
Brandon,
and then you had Justin playing last year. So again, there is a lot of talent, and again, that's just basketball. I know there's a ton of football stuff up there as well.
There is.
With that being said, how excited are you about starting this the Greer Sports Star and highlighting all that talent? Because it's not just about the talent that is in Columbia. I know that obviously we cover Columbia a lot, but we also do get out. We definitely have a very strong relationship with the Greer community as well. Absolutely. How excited are you about this new venture with the Greer Sports Star?
Super excited. That's the reason I had the idea in the first place, is because it feels like there is too much talent here, and there are too many great stories to tell in this area. That even with this unfortunate situation with the newspaper shutting down, the stories shouldn't go untold. They shouldn't be ignored just because that paper is no longer in existence. And I've been blessed to have that platform to where it's pretty much able to just switch right on over and get this new thing rolling and have these people follow along. And I really think that the community in Greer and the people that follow along with me for sticking with it and trusting in this new project, because I really think it can be something special if the people get behind it. And so far they have.
Now, what's your, and I know this is a blanket question, but what's your overall vision for the Greer Sports Star in terms of, obviously you're going to focus on football and basketball, but is it a 12-month thing, or kind of what's the overall vision for this piece of work?
That's a good question. obviously, you want to get it'll be at least an 8-9 month thing and get the spring sports in there too. But you know, I've also had several different thoughts. I know there's some athletes and some students in these schools that we cover that do their own um, podcasts and sports related media ventures, and I'd love to sort of tie some of that in at some point to keep investing in these in the youth a little bit and give them almost a platform to produce their things. So there's a whole lot of ideas I have for it. It's still very much in the infant stage. I mean, we literally, it's September 3rd. I think we announced the launch about 20 days ago. So it's very much in those first stages, but I've got big plans for it. And just as it continues to hopefully grow, seeing what it can turn into, I'm very excited.
Well, one thing I will give you credit for, you are a man who knows how to pivot.
I
You know
appreciate
how
it.
to pivot.
I appreciate
And that is a very good skill to have in this day and age. That's a very commendable skill to have.
Appreciate it.
My last question for you, in terms of journalism from a very broad level, what do you see? In terms of forecasting? What do you see for the journalism? For someone who has a journalism background going forward, because it has changed so much within the last 5 to 10 years. Where even myself, anybody who can buy a microphone, and you don't even really need a microphone. Anybody with a Zoom account can kind of call themselves or get into the space. They're not necessarily journalists, but they can get into space. Where do you see the future of journalism, from a very macro perspective?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's just like everything in life. In this world, as it grows, it will change. It is changing, um, but I do think that there will always be a place for the people that still like to pick up, an old paper copy of the newspaper. The people that enjoy the more long form storytelling, like you were talking about, as opposed to the headline grabbers and the quick hitters. I think there's always going to be a place for these kind of ventures. I do think that it will slowly continue to gravitate more towards the digital realm. Maybe slowly away from print as it is, which is really unfortunate because even me being my age, 25 years old, I still love picking up the newspaper and reading it sometimes. But um, the stories will never die. The stories will never, fade away. It's just on us as journalists and storytellers to continue adapting to the way that the platforms change and the way that these storytelling realms change, because there's always going to be great stories to tell, and there's always going to be great young athletes, great young people to cover, to tell their stories. And like I said, it's just a matter of the people that tell those stories being able and willing to adapt to the changes that come their way.
That's a fantastic way to articulate it, because I agree with you. And the phrase or the word that really sticks out to me, the one that you just said, is storytelling.
Yeah.
It's one thing to write a tweet and things of that nature, and that's not really storytelling. It's kind of just trying to capture attention. But I do agree with you. There will always be a place for storytelling. Now, monetizing it is a different conversation, but there will always be a place for storytelling, and there'll always be an audience for storytelling. So that the difficult or the challenge, as with any business, is figuring out how you monetize, and that might be a portion of it, might be the whole thing. I think that's still a lot of people are trying to grapple with that and trying to figure out kind of where where it all fits, and how the numbers work out. But it's fantastic that you have this venture, and we'll definitely do all that we can on this side to make sure that people know about it, and not only for Greer, but I just think it's great, what you're doing for areas even outside of Greer. So
Yeah.
where can the good people see all this good content and be able to connect with you?
Yeah, so obviously the website, it's greersportsstar.com. Really proud of the website. I did build that myself, which was really, really tedious,
Bootstrapping.
tedious, but fun when you see the finished product. On X/Twitter, Also, it's Greer Sports Star is the username. And then on Facebook, just type in Greer Sports Star, and we're there too. So we might continue to grow. Who knows? Maybe different platforms, but that's where you can find us for now. And if we'll have you covered throughout every sports season, football, basketball, all the spring sports. I'm looking forward to seeing how this thing continues to grow.
And this could tell you why I'm not a good journalist. I didn't even ask you about what are you, who are some of the teams that you're looking forward to from a football perspective, and also obviously from a basketball perspective this upcoming season. Let's talk first football in the Greer area.
Sure. So I've got a chance to see a couple of these teams in person now, but I'll tell you who's really jumped out at me is football-wise is Riverside. They got a really high-powered offense. They got a sophomore quarterback. His name's Gideon Mayer. He's getting his first varsity starts, and he's putting it together really, really well. You got guys like a guy named Speedy Taylor. He's one of the quickest guys I've ever seen. He got 3 touchdowns.
That's a hell of a name.
It is. He's a great player, too. He had 3 touchdowns last week. And then you got Mikkel Skinner, obviously, who he's basketball and football for Riverside, but he's a 4-star. He's a 4-star football prospect who's actually committed to Cincinnati. So he's really fun to watch for Riverside too. He's got a lot of weapons on that team, and if they really put it together, I think they got a chance to do something special. And then basketball, take your pick. Anybody in the area, honestly, but I really like the thought of Greer this year, bringing a lot of their guys back. And they got all the way to the last 4 last year. A lot of the 5A or the 4A foes that they faced on the way to that spot, they've moved up to 5A. Greer's still in 4A, so I'm liking their chances of maybe making another run and potentially bringing home a state title. So it's going to be a fun season. I just can't wait to get into it.
It's interesting. I was talking to Coach Leifridge this summer. Yep. That last game they played in Riverside, I didn't think that was probably the worst I'd seen them play all year. And I've seen them play quite a bit. They just did not play a good game that one. And, it only takes one night, obviously, in high school basketball. So I am too looking forward to seeing what Greer does. And I do think they have a chance to win the state championship.
Definitely.
And at the least play for a state championship. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out down the road. So, but definitely thanks for coming through, Trey. And, we'll stay connected, and, whatever we can do on this side, we'll make sure that we make sure that we get the word out on all the great work that you're doing, not only in Greer, but also in the remainder of the state as well.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much for having me on and trying to help spread the word. It means a lot. Thank you, guys.